In this video, we're going to be recreating the collage style effect in the Godfather of Harlem intro using Adobe Photoshop and Adobe After Effects. The captivating intro was created by the design studio Digital Kitchen. These visuals completely hooked me and honestly made me want to watch the show. It's a great reminder of how powerful visual storytelling can be, pulling viewers in through design alone. In this video, we're not recreating the exact scene. Instead, we'll be breaking down the style and build something original using our own images. Let's start in Photoshop. So this is the original Photoshop file. To teach you how to do this, I am going to open a new file. Go to File, go to New. In your new canvas, you want to make sure the width is 1080 and the height is also 1080. The first thing you want to do when you open this document is you want to go over to the Paint Bucket tool and just paint your canvas black. Now what you want to do is drag in the first image you want to crop out, and once it's in the document, try align it to the center and scale it up a little bit. Now before you do anything, you want to head over to the layer, right click and click rasterize layer. Now hit the polygon lasso tool and begin cutting out those jagged cuts. So just roughly select the area you want to cut out and try cut it out in an abstract way. Once you've got your selection, what you want to do is hit Ctrl J to duplicate it to a new layer and then hide or delete the original. Now grab a new image you want to overlay onto your cutout. For this picture I want to cut out the mouth, so what we do is just do jagged cuts around the mouth. Once again hit Ctrl J and delete the image. Now in order to give it that rough jagged style, what we want to do is scale it up and rotate it slightly and try to align it to the body part you want to replace. So let's just scale it up a bit and rotate. Once that's done, you should get something like this. The goal of this style is to get that rough sketchbook cutout type of style, so it doesn't have to be too accurate. Now I'm going to import another picture. A good tip in order to get proportionate somewhat accurate, you want to head over to the opacity, lower it down until you can see the other layers, and try scale it down and align the body part you want to replace up with each other. And once it's somewhat aligned, what you want to do is turn back up the opacity and then just begin cutting out what you want. Then hit Ctrl J. Repeat this process for the jawline, mouth, nose, etc. until you get a construct of a face. For example, this is how I overlapped it in the original. Now, once you're happy with your project, you want to go ahead and save your file so then we can import it into After Effects later. But before we switch apps, let's make our fabric texture. Do a new file again, make sure it's 1080 by 1080 again. Once you drag in your texture, you want to make sure you align it to your canvas size. And I'm going to hit Alt and I'm going to drag it down so this duplicates what we have already in order to fill in the white gap. I'm going to press Shift and click on both layers and then press Ctrl E to merge the layers as one. Now what I'm going to do is apply a curves effect and just begin bringing it all the way down. This is so it's easier to edit once imported in After Effects. Now you've done that, you want to also save this file as well, and we'll go into After Effects now. Now we're in After Effects, what you want to do is click New Composition and make sure your composition size is set to 1080 by 1080 once again. Frame rate doesn't matter too much as we'll be adding a posterized time effect, basically acting as the frame rate. I'm going to set the duration to 5 seconds as it's already set, and I'm just going to name this composition collage tutorial. Now we've done this, you want to find the cutout Photoshop file and just drag it into the composition. Once imported, make sure the import kind says composition retain layer size and the options say editable layer styles. This is so we can edit each layer and make sure each layer stays true to their size. Now it's imported into our timeline, what we want to do is open all of the compositions. And here we have our layers. So the first thing you want to do is make sure each anchor point is in the center of each layer. This is to ensure once we begin rotating the animation properties, it rotates around the anchor point. So for example, if your anchor point is over here and we go to rotation, it's gonna rotate around the anchor point. So in order to fix this, what you want to do is select the layer, go to the layers tab and then click transform. And then you want to click center anchor point in layer content. If not, you can use the shortcut Ctrl-Alt-Home and it will drag your anchor point to the center of the layer. Now we can begin animating the rotation property. So what you want to do is hit R on your keypad and then hold Alt and left click on the little stopwatch here. And now what you want to type is the expression wiggle, and then we find it here. And then in the little brackets, you want to type 1, 5. So this expression tells After Effects to animate the rotation property randomly by 1 second up to 5 degrees, giving us a subtle floating motion. Now what we want to do is click on the expression, copy, and then apply it to all of these layers. So I'm just going to do that now real quick. So this is the type of effect it gives each cutout. Now what we want to do is delete the background layer, as we won't be needing this anymore. Now we click New, add an adjustment layer, and we want to add the effect called Posterize Time. The Posterize Time effect changes the frames per second in the composition. So what we want to do is change this from 24 to 4 frames per second. This gives us that stop motion stylized paper effect that we are looking to achieve. Now we can start with the ripped edges effect. So select your desired cutout, click Ctrl-Shift-C. This is to pre-compose it, so I'm going to name it Mouth. And you want to make sure this button here is clicked, leave all attributes, enter the composition, and I'm going to resize this composition, just make it a bit bigger. So I'm going to do 400 by 400. What you want to do now is hit Ctrl-D to duplicate the layer. On the bottom layer, we want to go to Layer Styles and apply a stroke. Now we want to make sure the stroke is set to 1 and the color is set to an off-white. We don't want to make it too white, otherwise that will look unrealistic. So we want to add a bit of grays to the white. So I'm going to select around here. Now, in order to give it that rigid look, we want to apply the effect Roughen Edges and drag it on to the bottom. I also forgot to mention, make sure the adjustment layer is at the top of all these layers, as any layer underneath the adjustment layer is affected by the adjustment layer. So if I drag it to the middle, as you can see, some of them look smooth and then some of them look stylized and chopped. That's not the effect we want. We want all of them to look stylized and chopped. So just drag it all the way to the top. For the Roughen Edges effect, we want to change the border to 5. We want to also change the sharpness to 5 and increase the scale to 200 and drag the complexity all the way to 10. And as you can see, we have that rip paper type of feel to it. Now for the top layer, what we want to do is go to Layer Styles and add a drop shadow. This is to add depth to the animation. So what you want to do is click this little drag down menu and change the opacity from 75 to something like 35 or 50. You can also increase the distance a little bit. So I'm going to go 10. And when we go back a composition, you can see how it looks like it's been ripped and placed onto the face. So I'm going to go ahead and apply this to the eye and head as well, as not every single layer needs this effect. Now we want to go back a composition again and import our fabric effect. Make sure everything is the same. And what we want to do is go to Track Matte and select our cutout. So this makes sure the fabric effect only affects our cutout. And in order to still view our cutout, what we want to do is make it visible once again. Now on the fabric effect, we want to go to Mode and set the blending mode to Soft Light. This gives our project that worn printed texture feel that we're aiming to get. And in order to highlight the effect even more, you want to go over and add a curves effect and then just drag it onto the fabric effect composition. Now what you want to do is just play about with the darkness and brightness. So I'm gonna brighten it up a tad bit and then press T on your keyboard for the opacity properties. And I'm going to just lower it down ever so slightly. So let's just knock that down in half, so 50%. So as you can see, it's got a clear overlay on it. Now what we want to do is bring in grunge textures to make it more gritty and abstract as well. So for the first texture, I'm going to go ahead and drag these scratches in. I'm going to resize it so it fits the composition. So what we want to do is drag that down. So as you can see, when this is clicked, they both are the exact same number. When it's unclicked, you can move this one without affecting this one. So I'm just going to make sure it's fully aligned. And what you want to do now is go to mode and select add. This makes sure the texture goes over both the cutout and fabric effect. Now we want to just decrease the opacity to around, let's say 2. And we want to duplicate this layer. So press Ctrl D and then open the scale property and make sure this is unchecked still. And on the first one, what you want to do is click a minus in front of it. What this does, it inverts the video. So let me just increase the opacity on both videos. So as you can see, they're both the exact same video, just mirrored. Now what you want to do is drag these 3, drag them into the composition. Make sure they're behind the cutout and fabric compositions. And we're going to pre-compose them. So let's just name this BG for background. Let's do it in capitals. Now we want to double click and go into the BG composition. I'm going to resize these as well. So I'm going to hide all the layers until we have one. This layer here is the foggy background we have. And what you want to do is you want to drag that all the way to the bottom. And this is the scratch texture we have. So you want to send that all the way to the top. And this video is just little dots that we have to give it that old film grain effect. Now what you want to do is make sure all of these are selected to add, and you want to play about with the opacity on each video. So I am going to decrease this to about 8 and decrease this to about 50. Now we want to add an adjustment layer. So go to new, adjustment layer. Let's apply a hue and saturation effect. So let's just lighten this up by, let's say 2. And let's decrease this to 50 opacity. Now go back into our main composition. As you can see, we can clearly see the background now. Now what we want to do to give it that final finishing touch is right click, hit new, add another adjustment layer and drag it to the top. Now we want to add a CC toner effect and drag it to the adjustment layer. As you can see, it tints everything to these colors. So if I did duotone, it's only using the highlights and shadows. If I do tritone, it's using highlights, midtones, shadows. And if I do pentatone, which it originally was on, it's using highlights, brights, midtone, dark tones, and shadows. Solid just makes it a solid layer, but the effect we want is pentone. So let's click pentone. So right now the tint effect is very extreme. So what you want to do is head to the CC toner effect, go to blend with original and just increase the opacity till it's about midway point, and that gives it that slight tint that we see in the original video. Another thing you want to do is select the grunge and background layers using control. So control click each layer you want to select, right click, go to time stretch and stretch it to about 150. What this does, it just makes your clips go slower. And the reason we've done this for these layers specifically is because it was too fast, distracting the viewers from the actual cutout effect. So let's just revert it to how it was before. As you can see, that's way too fast and very distracting for the audience. So let's just go back and change it to how it was again. Now for the final touches, what you want to do is go to the adjustment layer, go to the effects panel and just add some noise. So type in noise and we want to use this effect here, drag it to the adjustment layer and type in about 5% noise. This just adds a bit of grain, as you can see here. So if I was to turn it off, turn it on again, you can see a massive difference. I might actually amp it up to about 10 just to see a bit more of a difference. This gritty layered look is a great way to explore compositioning texturing, and motion design all in one project. This doesn't have to be clean or precise, as it's about the energy and the feeling it creates visually. If you did find this helpful, please leave a like and comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel for any future tutorials. I will be leaving a link to the project file down in the description for those who want to follow along or remix it in their own way. Yeah. Thank you guys for watching.